All right, I think we're live. I say I think because this is our first live broadcast that we've done as Tap In Geek Out. This is Tap In Geek Out. Doug Lund, Eric Hollis. It is February 3rd, and we are live at the Dueces Wild Brewery for their grand opening this afternoon, or I guess this morning. What time do the doors open?
11 a.m.
All right, so if you're already listening to this, get in your car right now and head down to Colorado Springs and come join us for a beer for the grand opening at Dueces Wild. We're on Peterson, just off of, not too far off of Powers, I think, but dwbrewery.com, you can find the address. That's the first thing I wanted to make sure and get out to all of our listeners is this is a one-time event for Dueces Wild, so there's only one grand opening. On the mic with us to begin with, because I think we're going to be doing some shift changes here, are Rich, who is the owner and brewer.
Owner and vice president.
Owner and vice president. And Bill, I'm going to let you introduce your titles.
Owner, president.
Gentlemen, the first thing I want to say is I know this is a big day for you, so I want to thank you for taking some time to sit down with us.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And we're hoping to bring some of our crowd to enjoy the wonderful beer here this morning. You know, the very first thing I noticed when I was doing some research on you guys ahead of time is in trying to find you online, it was difficult because I was spelling your name wrong.
You mean right.
Or right. That's exactly what Eric told me. He's like, well, you spelled the name right, so that's wrong. Can we start there with the name?
Well, absolutely.
I'll let you answer that one. It has to do with you, so.
Well, I guess it all started with when I was back in the military. Missile maintainer. One of my first bases was Grand Forks, North Dakota, and they had the B system out there. And then I switched over to Malmstrom, which they had both the AM and the B system. B system was called the Deuce Squadron, or Squad 2, or Dueces. And my team actually happened to be Missile Maintenance Team 2. So we were known as Dueces. And when we take off for dispatch, we go Dueces Wild. And it just happened to work out, and it was just a great nickname. And so I thought it might be a good idea. I'll go get my guys T-shirts. I meant T-shirts for the team composition and stuff, and T-shirts came back and they were spelled wrong. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I am a staff sergeant and I don't make any kind of money whatsoever, and I can't afford to buy new shirts. So I just told my guys about it, and they all just laughed. Say, yeah, well, let's just roll with it. And that was just kind of like the whole premise on everything coming. And when I met Bill, and he was talking about the brewery and stuff, he was thinking about Dueces Wild. It just clicked. I'm like, oh my God, what a great thing, because it already fit with everything that I had been going on through my military career. And then I brought up the whole misspelling thing to him. It's like, well, I mean, this is kind of a good luck thing for us. I mean, what do you think about it? And he was kind of hemming and hawing a little bit. And he goes, you know what, it might be a good thing for us. And so we did a little informal survey, and a lot of people didn't know how to spell Dueces. And so we say, well, we'll see where it goes. And I think it's been a good thing, because there's been a lot of articles saying, don't worry about the misspelling, and a lot of people ask us about the misspelling. And it's like, well, you guys are remembering us, so I guess we got something that works here, and so we're sticking with it, and that's basically how it came about.
Almost a happy accident that led to excellence.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I mean, really, through and through this last week, it's just been phenomenal. Just the people coming in, the military supporting us. They're all bringing us their patches, and we don't even have staple thick enough to put up on the rafters right now. So we're getting some Velcro, and we're going to start our patches for all the military and the first responders, and when they bring in, so that way we can just line these the rafters up with who they represent out there in the field and the military. So.
One of the things I've noticed doing research about you guys is the tie you have to the military and the community. I know you have served, Rich.
Yes, thank you.
And thank you very much. And Tell me a little bit about that, because that really brings a unique element to Dueces Wild, I think, especially in the Colorado Springs community here, which is a big, huge military community.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, but Peterson was my last duty station. When I left Malmstrom Air Force Base, came to Peterson, worked Air Force Base Command, A Force sustainment for ICBMs. So I was constantly traveling to the ICBM wings, and just getting that continuity and knowing everybody out there. And they all come out here, at least the NCOs do, for NCO Academy. So I get a chance to see them again, and now they have a little bit of their missile maintainer heritage going on right outside the base. We even have one of the beers, the Knuckle Dragger.
I was going to ask about that one.
Named after the missile maintainers out there, and basically all the hard workers, all the guys that are out there just grinding, just doing a good job. And it's going to be a hefty, Scotch ale too. By the way, you might only want to have a couple of them, but it was made for them, and that's the whole premise of that one. And Bill, he brought that up and fully supported everything that we're going to do. It's going to surround this. So. That was mine, but Bill, on the other hand, he's got a son currently serving in the Marine Corps right now. He's out in San Diego. His father was a Korean war vet from Marines also, and we're just surrounding our investors. We have our good friends that are sitting out slinging beers. Steve, he served 5 years in the Air Force. Chris, our marketing manager, he was the chief of police out in Salt Lake. We just have a lot of first responders and military ties, and this is what we want to represent. So,
Doug and I did not serve, but we're both military brats. So believe it or not, we grew up. We actually met on a military base back in 1985, correct? So I love the support for the military. I actually worked for USAA. That's what I do in my career. So when I heard you guys were tied into that, I was like, well, that's not only unique, but that's needed, I believe, in the community. Did you guys kind of feel like that?
Yeah.
It's okay, Bill. You can talk
here.
Yeah.
I think we're positioned perfect for doing this. Community's been great. We've gotten a lot of really good response from it, and we're all too happy to give back to the community as well. So,
where did you guys meet?
21 years ago now.
21 years ago.
In Great Falls, he was at Malmstrom. I got transferred with my job, and I think my wife opened a daycare. Our boys are almost exactly the same age, and they needed daycare. They showed up one day, and it's been shenanigans ever since.
21 years ago, and then at what point did you guys start having a conversation about a brewery?
That really wasn't until maybe a couple of years ago when we really started to discuss doing this. We've always talked about doing something. I mean, we were both broke. Someday our dream was to have a Harley, I mean, hopes and dreams 21 years ago. And, maybe a bar was our first thought. And, time, I ended up moving back to New York. He moved back here to Colorado. And many years later, we kind of got back together. I moved back here, and we started discussing it. And it seemed like the community out here, this was the thing to do. And 2 years later, here we are.
The community in particular, I'm not sure if when we were talking about this, we were already on the air. Actually, now that I think about it, we weren't. But Colorado Springs in particular does seem like a hotbed right now. Did you have any concerns about getting into a market that was seeing a lot of new breweries springing up?
We heard some chatter. Some folks were telling us that the market's saturated. I personally don't think we've hit saturation with the breweries yet. Obviously, we've the last week and a half have been great. We've gotten a great response. I think, honestly, people are looking for a comfortable place to go have a craft beer, a well-crafted beer, and that's what we're trying to do here. And that's why we brought Jeff on. Make quality beer, make an atmosphere where people can go relax, have a good time.
And I'm glad you brought that up. That was going to be my next question: is who did your decorating? Because I noticed starting with the skateboard decks on the walls and looking around the room. This is a really unique atmosphere.
Well, as far as the skateboards go, I want to throw out a huge prop to our good friends down at Westside Tattoo. Aaron Moore had made them for us to put up on the wall. He says it was the display as art. We just wanted it because it was just the perfect fit in here. And Aaron, I hope you're listening to this because people are loving them skateboards, and we're not going to sell them. Sorry.
And is that part of the decor, or?
Yes, yes. We'll get it out of here after the grand opening, just because I don't want to get it scratched.
That's a gorgeous bike.
Well, again, another really good friend of ours. She painted. Coven is her company. Aurora Spesser. It's kind of an odd story. I got run over in a parking lot. A woman backed over me on that bike while I was sitting on it.
That is an odd story.
And I've always wanted to do something with the bike. And, well, now it's trashed, so this is a good opportunity to do something. And it really wasn't initially intended to be a brewery bike, but I kind of gave her free reins, and that's what she came up with, and I'm glad she did because it turned out great.
Agreed. And first of all, I'm glad you're okay. Because
it was close. It was touch and go.
I'm really eager to start asking questions about what you're making here and what's going to be on tap today. Who are the right gentlemen to have that conversation with?
Well, with this being said, we're going to bring up Jeff.
Absolutely.
He is the mad scientist, the one and only.
Rich, thanks.
Thank you, Rich.
We're going to start right at the top of the tap list and just go down through each beer.
Okay, that's what works for me.
No, man, I won't put you through that.
We wouldn't do that to you.
Let's start with let's pick one off the board. Which one up on your tap list there is your favorite beer?
You know, I always go for IPAs. I don't know why. I love making darker beers, but the IPA just for me is a refreshing beer. And so the Joker was intended to be. My typical beers have been more, or IPAs have been more with a malt backbone. This one I tried to make more hop forward at the beginning, so more bitterness and less of that, a little less of the malt backing it up. So it was the first one that I made that I think really turned out that way.
Does that fall into one of the styles? I can't keep them straight between East Coast, West Coast, New England.
Jeff, I don't know.
The Jeff style. That's great.
I think it just falls into an IPA. So, yeah, it's just a really good, solid IPA, I think.
And how has the reception been? I know you guys have been open for a week now. What kind of feedback are you getting?
Everybody's loving the beers, especially and surprisingly, the Blood Orange is. I thought when we first made it, it was like, whoa, that's a lot of Blood Orange, but it's been received really well, and we're not going to change a thing on that one. But it's been a really good one, and everybody's loving pretty much everything up there.
Are you the mastermind behind all of the beers, or do you get any help with that?
Bill was instrumental in the Blood Orange. It was his idea to have the Blood Orange Pale Ale. And Old Number 12 was one they'd been working on, but when I came along, I kind of I changed up a few things, made it an oatmeal stout instead of I forget what it was before.
That was kind of a Frankenstein beer,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, something like that. So, but everything else, pretty much, I think we've had some good back and forth on them, but for the most part, everything else up there is something that I developed for this place.
And Jeff, how long have you been doing this?
I've been in the industry for about 20 years. I started brewing professionally when I started McClellan's in Canyon City in 2007.
It's another brewery?
Yeah, it was my first brewery. I worked for Sweetwater Brewing Company in Atlanta. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm very familiar with Sweetwater. When were you there?
98 to 2003 or 4.
I've probably had some of your beer.
Well, I wasn't brewing there.
Oh, okay.
No, I was doing everything else but brewing. So, cleaning tanks, fixing things, stuff like that. So I had a real day job, so I couldn't do that.
Yeah, Sweetwater was kind of, I mean, that was the microbrew in Atlanta forever. Now
Yeah.
Terrapin's kind of stepping up and things like that, but I often call Sweetwater the new Belgium of the South because there was nothing like Sweetwater when Sweetwater came out, and hell, they're doing music festivals and all sorts of stuff now.
Yeah, we were living in East Atlanta when they did the first East Atlanta Beer Fest. I think that turned into 420 Fest. I'm not sure.
It did, and in fact, if you were there, we probably passed each other by many times. That's interesting that you're from Atlanta. Is that kind of your origin story with beer, starting at Sweetwater, cleaning the tanks? Or?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, that's I started home brewing with a Mr. Beer kit that we picked up, and decided that beer wasn't that great. So I started, went to the homebrew shop, got the big boy kit, and it went downhill from there. So
Downhill, is that what brought you to where you are here?
yeah, I've reached.
That was a terrible transition. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Really, what is it about this fine group here that makes you want to brew beer for them?
I don't know. They're just a fun group of guys. I mean, they're friendly. They're sincere about what they're doing and why they're doing it, and yeah, just a good group of guys.
Did you guys cook up anything special for the grand opening today?
We've got a vanilla porter. We added some. We just made 1 keg of it. Added some vanilla extract and made a really nice. I think it's really nice vanilla porter.
So listeners, if you make it down here today, that's the one you want to try because it might run out pretty quickly, and
Yeah.
it might be a while before
Yeah, there's
your patrons see it again.
There's only 120 pints of it, so yeah, it could go quick.
Eric's going to put away 12 of those by himself.
I wish he was kidding.
Well, that's okay. It's 5%, so
Okay,
you're all right.
I'll be all right.
Yeah.
Some of the names up there are pretty straightforward, but the one that that stands out immediately is the banana hammock.
Oh.
I have to hear the story behind that name.
Well, when I left Red Leg, it was to start my own brewery. The brewery that I've been thinking about starting since I lived in Georgia was called Big Hammock Brewing Company because of a state park in South Georgia called Big Hammock State Park. We won't go into why it's called that, but I thought the name Big Hammock was a great name for a brewing company. And then when we were thinking about starting it up here, I was talking to some friends and thought we'd do a bunch of different beers that I usually didn't do, and a Hefeweizen's one that I've never done as a professional brewer. And my wife was like, well, you could call it Banana Hammock, because I was talking about making a really banana Hefeweizen, one that just tasted like, not quite like a banana creamsicle, but the name was perfect. It was like, oh, Banana Hammock, I like that, yeah. So there's no real, dirty story to that.
No, it's still a good story.
Works.
Yeah.
It works.
Throw the wife under the bus. Everyone's got a story like that. and a Hefe does usually have a little banana hint to it. So what did you do to bring that forward?
To bring the banana forward, I under aerated it and I under pitched it, so the yeast was stressed, and then I let it go pretty hot in the fermentation. So just to bring those esters out. So, but yeah, it was mostly under pitching, under aerating, so the yeast was just kind of stressed and making good flavors. So
I'm going to circle back to the Joker. That's the IPA, right?
yes.
Which happens to be my favorite style of beer too. Again, like you mentioned, just because of all of the variety there. What kind of hops are you using in that particular brew?
The Joker has Apollo, Equinox or Equinaut, and Centennial in it. So Equinox can bring out some kind of mango flavors, some tropical fruit flavors, and then the Centennial for some good citrus accents in there. So, and then the Apollo is just pretty much for bittering. No real flavor coming from that one. So.
Is there anything that I haven't asked about yet that's got a good story behind it? I imagine each one of them do, but is there one that you're keen to talk about?
Not really. The Joker was just my first. Was the one that, it's pretty much named after. What the hell? What is that band's name? Steve Miller.
Steve
Band?
Miller,
Was
yeah.
that say Steve Miller?
The Joker. We're gonna do kind of a Rausch beer, a mild Rausch beer called the Smoker, and then I'm gonna do one with hemp powder.
The Midnight Toker.
The Midnight Toker. Yes.
Nice. And what's the timeline with those?
Just as I can get to them.
Gotcha.
Probably, the Joker's probably going to stay, and then those other two will be a one-off at some point coming down the road, but probably in the next 6 months or so.
And the vanilla was a keg. Is that your typical size for your smaller batches?
Yeah, we're able to brew a barrel on our small system, but that one was just we took off a barrel of the Par 3 porter.
Gotcha.
And did it with that.
Ah, okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's right. How many tanks are you guys running back there?
I've got 3 10-barrel fermenters and a 10-barrel bright tank, so that's what I've got right now. And we're looking at probably expanding to 4th fermenter right now. So.
That sounds like plenty to keep you busy, though.
Yeah, it should. Yeah.
How important do you think experimentation is? I know you can make some of those beers in your sleep. Do you make batches and they turn out, unexpected to you, or is that kind of where the learning process is? I don't imagine you were born knowing how to make a Hefeweizen, so.
No, I know that was really just tasting Hefeweizens. I've been, talking to people for a long time about, how they do beers and stuff like that. It was just I got the idea from Bill I, who used to work at Prost, and I forget what his brewery's called now, up in Denver, and he makes a Hefeweizen that tastes like a banana creamsicle. And he did a talk on that, how he accomplishes that, and that's basically I followed his lead on that. When I'm making beers, I know pretty much what I want, and I know what most of the grains I'm trying are going to do for me. I know what most of the hops are going to do for me, and the yeast is pretty much straightforward. So it's just putting them together and hoping for the best, I guess. Not really hoping for the best, but, knowing it's going to be a drinkable beer. Sometimes I'll change it. Sometimes it's like, that's exactly what I wanted. And sometimes it's, well, you are your own worst critic, so it's like, I don't like that, I'm going to change it. So.
Do you ever find that there's something that you taste and you don't like, but you might give it to these guys and they're like, oh no, it's fantastic, put that on tap?
I haven't recently,
Okay.
but I have in the past. Yeah, I made one beer that was a really honey beer, and I really did not like that beer. Everybody I gave it to loved it. So, okay, here, you can have the recipe.
I want to take a point to mention again. It's 10:30 now, so the doors are opening down here at the Dueces Wild. 600 block of Peterson in just around a half an hour now. So if you're just tuning in, come down and join the gentlemen here. Tyler, Eric, and myself from Tap In Geek Out and Bitfaced will also be hanging around for a while. We've got a number of people that'll be showing up. Just the crowd that we're going to be bringing today, probably right around opening time. So not sure how long we're going to make it today because there's going to be beer involved, but we will be around for the next few hours. Now back to the conversation. There's a segment that we try and feature on every one of our episodes called I Remember My First Beer. And before we started talking to brewers, it was just, tell the story of the very first beer you had. Or if you can't remember the first beer you had, because a lot of people can't, just a good beer story. With brewers in particular, I like to know about the first batch that you made when you thought, I'm good at this and I'm going to keep doing it.
Well, the first one I made that I thought was excellent, I did a English extra special bitter. Made it for when I lived in East Atlanta, and made it for a neighborhood party, and it came out tasting like an English, an ESB. And everybody that was trying it was like, you need to quit working on airplanes and go make beer. that's kind of when I first decided that this is what I'm going to do. I'm good enough to get this going, and that was I was working at Sweetwater part-time at the time and learning all that, but that was I think the ESB. So
I'm going to take that opportunity as an education moment. What goes into the process of putting an ESB together? That's a style I personally know very little about.
It's a really straightforward style. It's an English style pale ale basically. It's called extra special bitter. Doesn't mean it's bitter. It's not. It's a very nice malty beer with with hops to back it up. It's not one of those like an in-your-face West Coast IPA kind of style. Going into that is just basically you want a little bit of caramel, maybe some toffee notes in it. Not a whole lot of hop bitterness, but I put a lot of hop in the flavor, and you just use English style hops like Kent Goldings or sorry, blanking on that right now, but
No problem.
Just English style hops. So it's just got that nice, very drinkable, not overly carbonated, style of beer. So.
Is that a style that you're still brewing to this day?
I haven't in years right now. It's one of those. It's hard to sell to people because they hear it bitter.
Right.
When you say this is an extra special bitter, oh, I don't want that. So you gotta kind of get them educated on it, and that's what I've been trying to do for years. But it hasn't been one that we've wanted to put out. It's not like a popular style. It's not like an IPA or a really hoppy pale ale or something like that, which people tend to go for. I try to incorporate some kind of that history in my other beers, but
thanks. Bill, is it all right if I put you on the spot?
Well, I guess it all depends.
Again, the segment, I try and keep it pretty flexible, but everyone's got a great beer story. What's your go-to?
I don't know if I have a great beer story. I can remember opening beers in my refrigerator when I was a kid, drink half of it, fill the rest up with water, put the cap back on, and hope Dad didn't find out. He knew. Yeah, wasn't fooling anybody. I guess I as far as craft beers, it wasn't until I was maybe 30 and that I discovered craft beer and realized that I like beer again, because I wasn't crazy about the Pilsners and the commercial beers that were out there. And I think it was Daytona Bike Week in 2005, and I started to sample some of the craft beers from the breweries that were popping up, going down the East Coast, and realized that I like craft beer, and it just went downhill from there.
Kids these days don't know how good they have it.
That is correct. That is correct.
I've got kids that have just come into drinking age recently, and they're trying all different kinds of things. I'm like, yeah, it must be nice to have all of those options. But anyone who's 40 or above can remember a time when there was maybe 3 or 4 selections that you could get consistently, and then if you wanted a beer that had any good flavor, you had to get in your car and drive somewhere.
Yeah, or Canadian beer. I grew up in upstate New York, and I mean you had to go to Canada to get a good beer. I hate to say that, but that was the case years ago. So we're fortunate to be here in these times, I feel.
I want to change gears here a little bit, and we can rotate some more people in if there's anyone else that would like to have a spot, because this is going to go by really quickly. We're already at 10:35, and I want to be out of your way by the time you guys open your doors, so we'll keep things moving along here. But in addition to the porter, the vanilla porter today, what else is it that you want to let the community know about with the grand opening?
Well, unfortunately, our mug club sold out, so we won't have any of that available for the grand opening.
These are
That's
the mugs on the wall over here?
Yeah, it sold way faster than we ever thought it would.
That doesn't sound like unfortunately.
Yeah, that sounds like good.
Yeah, well, unfortunate for some folks that really wanted to get in on the mug club. We actually have a waiting list already. So it's been great. You know, that part of it's been great. We have a etched glass that we did a limited amount that we're gonna sell. First come, first serve. When they're gone, they're gone. And honestly, just come down and try some really great beer.
You're going to have to get more hangers for those mugs up there.
Yeah, well, it's kind of you don't want to put too many up there because if you're part of a mug club, you want to feel like you're part of a small group.
Right.
You know, not everybody has this mug, so we're fighting the urge to add to the 50 that we have.
Yeah, you've managed to create exclusivity on day one, which you're right. I mean, a club should feel special, and you know, for someone that wasn't fortunate enough to get in on day one, like what's that waiting list look like now?
I didn't count up how many people we had last night, but there's probably 10, 12 people on it already.
Well, congratulations! In case no one else has told you, I mean, that's you know, an achievement and a victory from day one.
Yeah, thanks.
Sorry, man.
No, you put me on the spot, or no, it's fine.
I am. I was trying to avoid dead air there.
Oh, no, I didn't know if we were switching or what we were doing.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's now's probably a good time to do that. Jeff, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
I did get the name right? Yeah. Okay. I couldn't see your shirt. Chris.
Yes,
How's it going?
excellent.
What do you do here at Dueces Wild?
You know, I drink a lot of beer. That's the perk of my job. I've actually been helping out with some of the social media, Instagram, Facebook, and just trying to get that the word out there and get some good publicity for the brewery.
Yeah, you've been a busy guy this morning. Actually, everyone's been running around doing something, getting the place ready. But how long in advance of today did you start working on the grand opening?
You know, we probably started things slowly in the summertime, getting some pages crafted and ready to go, thinking about kind of what Bill and Rich wanted as owners, the vision. Luckily, I know them personally, obviously, and I wanted to get some of their personality in there. But you know, we did have the delay at the ground opening earlier this month, and that obviously threw things a little bit of a wrench. And for me, it's much easier when you're open to get that, you know, those pictures and those posts out there and all that. And so we've really been just the last few weeks gearing up. I actually live in Salt Lake City, and I was skiing at Snow Basin Ski Resort, and I got a text from Bill with a picture with Ty holding the last piece of paper they need, and he said, "Hey, we're open." So I think I was riding the gondola and threw a post out real quick, and I think they had a good turnout just right then and there. So it's been pretty neat.
We've heard that when it comes to the licensing and the policy and the government, that it really is a hurry up and wait game when opening a new brewery in particular. And I should mention, we've also got another new individual on the mic, Callie. Mm-hmm. What do you do at Dueces Wild?
So I bartend here, and
the most important person in the room.
Yes, I bring you your beer and make you happy is my job. So
I'm going to throw this question to both of you, because you both work in a brewery, but at some point you did something else and something drew you to this industry. Can I put you guys on the spot as well with your beer story or your first beer story?
yeah, I actually worked at a brewery prior to this, and before that I worked in bars. So going from a bar to a brewery was a huge change. It was amazing. You don't have the people just coming here to get drunk. They actually enjoy what they're drinking and enjoy the environment, and they're not there just to get crazy. So it's kind of nice. And I really love the fact that you can put so much personality and you can put so much uniqueness into a beer, into a brewery, and just the fact that people come in and they're so happy to see you and they're so happy to drink is an amazing feeling. And I love it. Like, I love working here, and the people who come in make my job so much fun that doesn't even feel like a job anymore. So it's hard to want to leave or like go home, because kind of like feels like home here.
I was gonna ask about your age, but that's probably not a fair question.
Yeah.
with the subsequent one that I wanted to ask. But do you remember your first beer?
I remember sneaking my first beer. I remember it was a Bud Light, and I thought it was disgusting. And I was like, I don't know how people can go out and drink, because this is gross. And then finally, when I became of age, I started drinking. And I think my first beer was a Bristol Winter Warlock, actually. And that's what got me hooked. I was like, why have I been drinking this gross, like, water beer? Like, what is wrong with me?
You had to suffer like everyone else. That's
Yep.
that's the best thing about drinking a crappy beer when you're young. And we hear that story a lot. It's like, yeah, I tried a Budweiser or Michelob, and then I didn't drink beer again for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, pretty much. All my friends were like, no, this is the only thing we drink is like Keystone Light, Bud Light. No, can't do that. No, there's no way. Like, I can't go back now. Once you go craft, you don't go back.
Oh, I like that. You mind if I steal that?
Go ahead.
It's a new
Yeah.
T-shirt idea. Hashtag.
Deal.
Chris, I do a lot on social media, and I know there's a lot of challenges out there when you're promoting anything. What are some of the challenges you've ran into promoting the brewery?
Right now, it's really just getting the word out there. The word of mouth is so huge, and like yesterday, it was a fairly busy day, and I had the opportunity to talk to a lot of customers, and that's the first thing I ask them is, how did you hear about the brewery? And with the connections that Rich and Bill have, and Callie, they just, so many people, so a lot of that happens. But it's nice to hear that, oh, I saw you on Facebook, or I saw you on Instagram, and obviously, when you're a startup business, you don't have that product and that feedback to really, when it starts to sell itself. Well, now that's what's happening. I mean, all the reviews that are coming in on Facebook, for example, are just fantastic, because the number one thing is the beer has to be good. Otherwise, you're not going to come here. But you can see the detail and craftsmanship that's gone into the brewery itself. And I've had a chance to get to know Jeff, and I mean, talk about a knowledgeable guy, and he's very well known in the beer scene here in Colorado. And it's instant credibility, it's instant respect, and so that makes my job a lot easier now. Now it's just take some cool pictures and throw a filter on there and see what happens.
So it becomes almost maintenance at that point. And I think word of mouth is the most important thing, correct? You get, beer's great today. I'll tell 30 of my friends how awesome it is. And I think that's organically you guys have built this up. And bring it back to kind of where we started today. I think the ties to the military and this community, that takes you guys to a whole nother level. As soon as I heard about that and support for the veterans, I was like, okay, well, I would be well more inclined to go drink there, because I know I'm supporting good people and a good cause and something that I truly believe in. So thank you guys so much. This is a wonderful place to have beer. The skateboards alone, when I walked in, I'm big into skateboarding. I was like, okay, I've got something in common with these guys. Beer and skateboarding, hell, you can't beat that at all. So I think it's wonderful. And anything we can do to kind of spread the signal for you, we would love to. And I cannot wait to drink some of the beer today. Looking up at that board, I'm just salivating, because I haven't tried the beer yet, so I'm excited.
Yeah, you're in for a treat for sure. And
Oh, yeah.
my dad did it 25 years in the Air Force, retired as a master sergeant, and it was just a natural fit for me to get involved with these guys. And the location they picked, I think, is excellent. I think they're all about really the Colorado Springs community, some revitalization, and access to the base. And you've given people a destination on their way home from work now, and we have such a nice mix of people in here. And it was really neat to see. But you're right. It's the veteran side of it, the veteran-owned thing. We just saw Ty come in. He's an Army veteran. Was hurt over in 2006 in Iraq, where he was shot, and he's a big part of the brewery as well. And it's a good commonplace. It's the term of a public house is people are coming here, good conversation. It was just a constant din of people talking and getting to know each other. And this gathering table is a fantastic concept, because you're sitting next to people you don't even know, and just chatting, and it's just a nice vibe in here,
Like, I can't wait to see it. And you guys are right down the street from my house, so you might be seeing me more often than you'd
Well,
like to.
we hope so. Just keep tagging us and checking in.
Oh, of course, and I can't wait to. We write beer reviews too, and I can't wait to review some of the beers. We try to bring a pretty unique, take on it, and we do drink a lot of beer. So I can't wait to have y'all's beer today. I'm sure it's going to be absolutely delicious.
Oh yeah,
You're in for a
definitely
treat,
is.
for sure.
Well, and that's the sole purpose of us even being here today, is to help us add our voice to your voice. When it comes to our listeners or the patrons today, what would be your ask of them in terms of how they're communicating it, where to review the beers? Like Untapped, for example, I think is one that we use fairly often. Is there a place in particular that aligns with what you're doing that would be a good place to add the feedback?
Well, right now we're pretty much Instagram, Facebook only. Yelp is going to come up on the horizon there once we're a little bit more established.
I'm sorry. I'm just going to tell you in advance. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, we'll see how that goes, right? But so far, I think we've gotten a lot of good feedback on Facebook, and that's probably for us. And then obviously, if you have, links to different pages and sites, we're happy. We definitely would love to share that. And I think what's so unique for me, there's this brotherhood among these craft brewers. We had a fellow brewer in yesterday from another place, and the help and support that goes into it, and I think that's part of the message that Rich and Bill want to get out there is, support local, support your local communities. As a social media aspect, I want to make sure we don't lose this is, two buddies that had a dream, and to make this happen, this is not a corporate, we're not some big monster business out there to take over the world. It's just, hey, we're two good old boys trying to follow their dream, and the community they're supporting, they're all about giving back to Colorado Springs. Members of the Chamber of Commerce now, which is important, and being involved in some of the veteran affairs work there, and military support. And obviously, I think Rich mentioned earlier, I'm retired law enforcement, so they're very much into that first responder community. Steve is a firefighter, so police, fire, EMS personnel. That's where a lot of the focus is going to go back when it comes to fundraising, some charitable things, certain nights, those type of events, which is, I think, so crucial, especially in an area like this with the military base there. I live in Layton, which is where Hill Air Force Base is, and it's all about that military support.
And for our listeners, we'll make sure and get information added both to the stream and to the show notes with all the social media tags that Chris mentioned on how to share your experience here and make the brewery aware of your feedback at the same time. I can't imagine how you guys feel, because I'm getting excited watching the clock tick down. And again, I don't want to keep you much longer. We'll try and get out of your way so you can get to doing what you're here to do.
I just wanted to say that we've talked to a lot of brewers in Colorado Springs, and if you guys ever need anything, just pick up the phone and call one of them. I'm serious. That's everybody in the community we've talked to has said. There is a level of competition, but there's also a level of camaraderie. Like, you run out of hops, give Travis down at Fieldhouse a call. I promise you he would help you out, seriously. And that's just what I felt from the community, and that's what I felt when I walked in the door here today. And I just want to thank all of you for spending time with us today and inviting us into your brewery to drink beer. I cannot wait to drink beer today. I can't say that enough. Can't wait to try some of your beers. But thank you so much. I mean, I knew as soon as I opened the door today that this was going to be a very unique interview, and this was going to be a very unique brewery, and you guys did not disappoint me in the least. So I really appreciate that, and thank you for having us here today. It means a lot to us. We appreciate it.
We appreciate you guys.
Yeah,
Thank you.
definitely.
And congratulations on the big day. Thanks again to Dueces Wild. Thanks to everyone who might have tuned in to the live stream today. This isn't our typical format, so at one point, I'm going to cut this together into a more listenable episode. At that point, it's absolutely you that I should reach out to talk about
you can go
promoting that.
Yeah, but they know how to get a hold of me.
I promise you it'll sound much better than I've sounded up to this point today. I'm not a live person, so thank you for being my guinea pig, because I'm hoping that this is something that we can continue to do. We love the microbrew scene. We love being able to talk to especially people right at the inception and seeing if we can be some part of helping you grow. And I'm really looking forward to that. if you like what you heard today, or if you're still listening, come down and have a beer. Bring your friends, bring your coworkers, hell, bring your platoon. And when they love the beer and ask where you heard about this place, don't give us the credit. Just take it for yourself. Unless there's anything else that you wanted to add, I'm going to go ahead and close us out.
Just real quick, one thing.
Sure.
We do have $5 pints until 6 p.m. and a small number of those limited edition glasses, so get in here while you can. You know how fast the Mug Club went. Those glasses will go very quickly too, and that vanilla porter.
The glasses and the
that's my
vanilla
first
porter.
beer. Cheers.
Well, cheers. That's actually the perfect note to end on. I'm Doug Lunn, Eric Hollis at the Dueces Wild Brewery. I had something really clever for this moment, but
I was going to say, if someone is listening to the stream right now and you come down and you walk up to Tyler and insult him, I will buy you a $5 pint. 'Cause that's how much I love my co-host.
That's all I got, man. It's you know how terrible I am with closes, and yeah, come down and drink with us.
Come down, check out the links that we will have on Facebook. We'll also put them up on our Twitter, and thank you to the community. We had 20 Twitter followers at the beginning of January, and we just cracked 1,000 last night.
Nice.
So
Awesome.
we really appreciate everyone's support. We got a lot of good feedback on the last cast, and I know we're going to have good feedback here. But yeah, come down to Dueces Wild today. We're in Colorado Springs. I know there's some of you guys out there that are local. Come down and drink some beers with me and Doug. When do you get a chance to do that? And plus, you get to meet everyone that you just heard on the microphone today. Sit down in person. I can't wait to talk to you guys off the air so we can really get into the nitty-gritty, and I can ask some pop culture questions, which we didn't get to get into today, but that's okay. Come down to Dueces Wild Brewery. Tap In Geek Out's here. Bitfaced is here. We can't wait to have a beer with you.
That's how you do a close.